Hello everybody, welcome to Catherine Sews. Thanks so much for joining me today. Everybody loves pockets, right? When you get a new dress or pants or skirt, you love it if there's pockets, right? So when you're sewing, it's great to know how to add pockets to any project that you're making. Once you find a basic pant pattern that fits you nicely, it's great to have, and you can change it up to include whatever kind of pocket detailing you want. So today I'm going to show you a very beginner-friendly way to add a traditional slash pocket to the side. I'm going to keep it super basic and easy. We're going to keep the edge straight so that we can sew it with some speed sewing techniques that I want to show you as well. Now I'm going to show you how to draft this by hand, super easy, very beginner friendly, but if you do want to see it done digitally, then my YouTube buddy Jin over at Pattern Studio 101 has a really great video on how a slash pocket is drafted on a pad system. And so if you want just more technical detail on how that can be drafted, go over to see Jin at Pattern Studio 101. But if you just want to do it by hand, this is all the information you're going to need. But I'm going to be adding a slash pocket at the side. So that's very easy to add. Let me show you how. I just want to trace off about where the seam allowance is going to be. Now I'm going to be cutting the size 14. You can just come in an inch, 2 inches. I'm going to do 1.5 inches or 4 centimeters. And then along the seam allowance mark here, I'm going to come down 6 inches or 15 centimeters. And I'm just going to connect those two dots going right through to the seam allowance. I'm also going to draw the pocket right on here just so I can easily trace it off onto my other paper. I'm going to come about 2 inches past the mark that I originally put there and then come down a total of about 10 inches. I'll also come out about 6 inches from the side seam. Good, so then I can kind of connect those dots straight there and then create a nice curve along here. I want at least about 2 inches below that notch, so I'll just come right into here and then curve that around. It should be big enough to accommodate your hand comfortably, and the opening should be about 6 inches. And in this pattern, simplicity gives you this extra tissue with this grid on it. So sure, I'll use that. And I'm sliding my pattern piece under this grid paper. Then I need to trace off 2 pieces, one that includes the corner of the pant and one that doesn't include the corner of the pant. So this one that includes the corner of the pocket is called pocket bag. I don't need the line of the opening of the pocket, but I do want the notch at the top. And then one thing I forgot to do was add seam allowance here. Now I'm just going to add a 1/4 inch seam allowance. You can add whatever you're used to using. Okay. I like a 1/4 inch on the edge of a pocket because it's all going to be enclosed. You have to trim your seam allowance anyway, but go ahead and add 5/8 if that's what you're more used to. So now I'm tracing it again, but this time I'm not including the corner of the pant and following that 14 line on the side seam, the 14 line on the top. The gray line can be just up and down the pocket piece. This new piece that does not include the corner is called the pocket facing, because I might want to reuse this pant. And I'm just going to fold it right on my seam allowance line so that I can always come back to the original style. I'll be cutting out 2 of the fronts, 2 of the pocket bag in the fashion fabric, and 2 of the pocket facing. And this can be in lining. It can be in your regular fabric if your fabric's not too thick, but I'm going to be doing it in lining. This one cannot be in lining because this whole corner is going to show. So to double check, I'll stack the pattern pieces back on top of each other. You'll understand right away how this is going to go together, right? The pocket facing is going to sew here, flip to the inside, and then the pocket bag comes on top of that. It's going to sew to the pocket facing, and then look. And then we're right back even to the original pant. So it'll have the exact same fit, no problem. You don't have to have this line straight. You can do it as a curve. You can even do it as a jean pocket. But I wanted to show you with it straight like this how fast it is to sew, because you don't have to clip your curves. We can do a little bit of speed sewing, so let me show you that. My fabric has a very obvious right and wrong side. If yours doesn't, if it's hard to tell the right and wrong side apart from each other, then make sure you've got two opposites. Cut the pocket facing, and I cut mine out of lining, and I'm just going to sew these edges here. And remember, I just drafted a 1/4 inch seam allowance, but you'll sew at whatever seam allowance you drafted. And just because that's slippery, I'll stick a couple pins in there just to get into the machine. So now at the machine, I'm just going to be sewing down this edge at the edge of my presser foot or a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Back tack there. Now I'm not even going to stop and cut my thread. I'm just going to lift up the presser foot, flip this all around. Leaving my seam allowance going out to my left, I'm going to flip the facing over top of that seam allowance and come back this way to do an understitch that's just a millimeter or like a 1/16 of an inch on this side, on the lining side, sewing the lining to both layers of the seam allowance. Now, if this was a curved seam, I would stop here and clip my curves before I do this understitch. And again, I'm not going to break my thread. I'm just going to come around, lift up my presser foot, turn that facing to the inside now. The understitching gives me a really nice edge to fold against. And now I'm going to come back with a top stitch. I'm angling my back tack in toward the side seam just to make sure I have enough seam allowance left on my pocket bag. And now finally, I'm cutting the thread. So there you go, all kind of in one step, sewn, understitched, and top stitched. Now the pocket bag goes right side together to the pocket facing, and I'll be just sewing around this curved edge from the top corner to the bottom corner of the pocket. So with the pocket bag sewn on now, finish this edge however you choose, zigzag or serge. I just ran and serged mine. You'll bring that finished edge to the notch that you cut at the top. Sew across these edges just to tame them. So these 3 layers are just sitting nicely there. And the same for the 3 edges at the bottom edge of the pocket. And now the front of your pant is exactly the same shape as the original pattern piece, and you can just continue to sew your pants like normal. So that's it. It's really as simple as that. Very easy and fast, and so comfortable to have in your pants or skirt. And you can add that to so many different projects. So try it out, see how you like making pockets that way, and I'll see you next time on Catherine Sews. Until next time, you take care.